welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. This story keeps getting bigger. The ongoing backlash against sexual misconduct by the powerful, and tonight is consuming a sitting U.S. senator. Model and radio show host Leanne Tweeden says that in 2006, on a USO tour abroad, she was kissed and groped against her will by comedian Al Franken, who is now a fairly well-known Democratic senator representing the state of Minnesota. Trace Gallagher has been on this story all day, and he joins us for the latest. Trace?
Tucker, the allegations you mentioned come from the radio and television personality who says the growing Me Too movement is what gave her the courage to fight back against the sitting U.S. senator. Radio news anchor Leanne Tweeden is accusing Al Franken actually in two separate incidents that happened during that USO tour back in 2006 when Franken was then a cast member for Saturday Night Live, including one that happened during a rehearsal for a skit that Tweeden would consider sexual assault. Here she is.
Put his hand on the back of my head, and he mashed his face against, I mean, it happened so fast, and he just mashed his lips against my face, and he stuck his tongue in my mouth so fast. I remember I pushed him off with my hands, and I said, if you ever do that to me again, I'm not going to be so nice about it the second time.
The second incident is this picture taken on a plane ride home from the tour where she claims that Al Franken groped her while she was asleep. Al Franken says he doesn't recall the rehearsal incident the way Tweeden does, but he did apologize, saying, and I'm quoting, "I respect women. I don't respect men who don't, and that fact that my own actions have given people a good reason to doubt that makes me feel ashamed." As for the photograph, Franken says, quote, "I don't know what was in my head when I took that picture, and it doesn't matter. There's no excuse. I look at it now and I feel disgusted with myself." Democratic leaders immediately called for a Senate Ethics Committee investigation, with Chuck Schumer saying, quote, "Sexual harassment is never acceptable and must not be tolerated. I hope and expect that the Ethics Committee will fully investigate this troubling incident, as they should with any credible allegation of sexual harassment." Al Franken says that he will fully cooperate with the investigation, though Politico is now reporting there's already talk among some Democrats that because the picture we showed you earlier is so damaging that Al Franken might be forced to resign. Tucker.
Trace Gallagher from L.A. Thanks a lot, Trace. Chadwick Moore is a journalist and a frequent guest on the show. He joins us from New York tonight. So, Chadwick, I know Al Franken pretty well. I've known him for a long time. I honestly never thought of him as a sexual harasser. I have thought of him a lot as not a very nice person who, and this is an open secret in Washington, who mistreats his staff. He's a screamer, who takes credit for other people's work, is basically horrible to those beneath him. And all of that, and I've seen it, has been excused for many years because his politics are mainstream politics here. He's a liberal.
Now, you know, when it's their own team, they don't know what to do. This isn't merely hypocrisy. There's something far more sinister, I believe, happening on the left when they've built a party platform that basically tells people, like women, like gays, like blacks, that you're victims and we're here to protect you, and the other side hates you. And then what happens when people come out, especially in these allegations now? Well, sometimes the women are attacked by the left. You know, Joy Behar famously called Bill Clinton's accusers tramps. So it becomes even more sinister when you realize that they don't care about these people, about these groups that they purport to be standing up for. They only care about one thing, and that one thing is power.
Yeah, accumulating power. I've always thought that the root of all wisdom was knowing how flawed you are, and that's a hedge against self-righteousness. But I've noticed, and particularly in the case of Al Franken, an overweening self-righteousness. I mean, Franken is the first one to stand up in a hearing and lecture people about how he's a lot better than they are. Do you see a connection between outward expressions of self-righteousness and people's secret personal behavior? Am I imagining that too?
He who doth protest too much.
I absolutely agree with you. I heard someone say the other day, as soon as you hear a man call himself a feminist, you can start the clock on the rape charges.
Okay. I showed that to you guys.
You said that?
Only because there's nothing funny about it.
You see this a lot with race, right? And I've noticed this my entire life. You see this a lot.
We have a problem in our society. No wonder some of these things are happening.
Race virtue signalers who are all day long talking
I was
about
going to cut it out, but then...
Yeah, they're the first person to cross the street if a black man talking towards them.
This is centricity
They're the first person to be, very
no more
rude
funny
to their,
coming from them
their brown-skinned
than on
nanny
the
or what
left.
have you. It's so obvious that there's some sort of
That was really
here. When you see someone who's trying so hard to virtue signal signal that they care for people. These groups of people, well, maybe you should look at that. You know, if they need to collectivize people like that.
It's true. I once asked Al Sharpton if he was a bigot, and he said to me in a moment of candor, he said, you know, the only group I really don't like, white liberals, because they patronize me. And I thought, that, you know, there's something to this. I'm not a shrink, so I don't fully understand the syndrome here, but it's related. People who have thoughts they're ashamed of tend to attack other people and accuse them of having those thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And that spans the gamut when, you know, people who maybe are a little too puritanical in some things turn out to have the nastiest secrets behind their closet as well, you know?
Yeah. An even bigger story. Congress has known about sexual misconduct and other kinds of misconduct by its members for years and has doled out your money, taxpayer cash, to keep it quiet. A group called the Office of Compliance has handed out more than $15 million to settle 260 alleged cases of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and other wrongdoing by members of Congress. Jason Chaffetz was chairman of the House Oversight Committee, which monitors situations like this. He's now a Fox News contributor and joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me on. A disgusting topic, but I'm glad you're covering it.
It is, and I don't want to fall into assuming people are guilty or self-righteousness, which I think is a natural byproduct of discussing things like this. But one thing I think we can all agree on is that Congress shouldn't be using taxpayer money to settle cases like this and then kind of keep it from public view. Why is this the arrangement up there?
No, look, we need to maximize the transparency so people can see what's happening. And I just believe that people should be held accountable. Why, if you're breaking the law by engaging in, say, sexual harassment, why should the people of Kansas or Utah or Florida have to reach in their pockets to pay off a settlement for something that you did? The members should be responsible for that.
Well, no, that's exactly it. And look, not everyone accused is guilty, and I think we should always remember that.
Right.
On the other hand, if you're accused by one of your staff of mistreatment, that's kind of between you and your staff member. The Congress is not a company. Shareholders are on the hook. Why don't the members pay these settlements?
Well, and look, you also have, in large part, Washington, D.C., the congressional offices are run by a bunch of 20-year-olds because there's so many interns and people who are fresh out of college. But would you want to send your son or daughter into an office where they've had to settle a case for sexual harassment? These offices are pretty small. In the House of Representatives, you have 6 or 7 people working in there. It's not a very big place in the individual office. So I think they need to maximize that transparency, which they can do if they choose to do. They need to, I believe in the principle of restitution. They should have to pay for it themselves if they broke it or committed, something against the law. And then they should give some exposure to new employees who are coming in so they're not stepping into a bad situation.
So, but how has this been able to persist for so long? I mean, we've had sexual assault scandals on the Hill. They had to shut the Page School down because members were molesting the pages long before you got there, but 30 years ago. So why have members been able to dip into taxpayer money to settle these?
I have no good excuse for it. I got to tell you, I haven't had a whole lot of visibility on it. When we had things happen, we've had members, the 8.5 years that I was there, we had one member on the Republican side of the aisle who was shooting selfies with his shirt off. But the moment John Boehner heard about that, he called him in, and the guy resigned within a couple of hours. We had another person on the Democratic side of the aisle. Remember where they had the tickle fights? They were having tickle fights with their staff members. And it went on for a couple of weeks until the person
policy-related tickle fights or non-policy-related tickle fights?
It's just disgusting. I mean, I can't explain it, Tucker. I can't.
Congressman, thank you for that perspective. I appreciate it.